Thank you, Madam President, and through you to our colleagues. I'm recognizing that I rose alongside the Minority Leader, and I look forward to hearing his remarks. I want to begin by thanking the Senator from Winchester for his leadership on education. He has certainly been a teacher to me and many of us on the formula. I also want to recognize the Minority Leader who has been steadfast in his own commitment. Of course, the Senator from Somerville, the Senator from Ludlow, the Senator from the 1st Plymouth and Norfolk, many of my colleagues, as the Senator from Winchester said, virtually all of us care about this conversation. I want to start by telling you the story of Amherst. I represent Amherst and 24 other cities and towns. In fiscal year 2008, the Amherst Pelham Regional School District received $9,793,582 in foundation funding. In fiscal year 25, the Amherst Pelham Regional School District received $9,885,461 in foundation funding. That's an increase of 0.94% over 17 years. There's a different story for the required local contribution. There's a different story, for the required local contribution, where over the same 17 years, Amherst's required local contribution increased by 63.8%. So what Amherst got saw less than a 1% growth. What Amherst contributed saw just under a 64% growth. That math does not work. Friends, the hour is late, so I won't tell you the story of Bernardston or Greenfield or Orange or Hatfield, but their realities are similarly unworkable. Let me define unworkable in my district. Teacher layoffs, more than a dozen at a time. Fractured relationships between city councils and school committees as each fight over too scarce resources. Rising numbers of school closures. Families and students struggling mightily to get the services that they need and deserve. Because school districts in my district and across the state have different funding and spending realities, the state has endeavored, as the gentleman said, to address their challenges in a variety of ways. Rural aid, minimum aid, reimbursements for regional school transportation, special education circuit breaker. I commend the Chair of Ways and Means and the Senate President for their steadfast focus on all aspects of education spending. They know well that Chapter 70 and the municipal contribution formula are struggling to stand the test of time. The severe issues manifesting with both formulas require that we convene another commission as promised in the Student Opportunity Act. Madam President, there is no harder issue in my Senate district. Like our Senate President, I ran for office in large part to work on education. We have made great strides in this Senate in funding higher education, in pay rates for early educators, and we passed the Student Opportunity Act, which has been transformational for many K-12 schools, but not transformational for the people I represent. Not transformational for the people I represent. I had been a senator for 10 months in 2019 when the Student Opportunity Act passed, just long enough to understand that the bill was important, but not focused on the communities I represent. So I worked with the education chair, then Senator Lewis, still around the edges of the bill on issues like declining enrollment, special education, innovations to help, for example, with shared services, and on the intersection between local spending and Proposition 2.5. And then I dug in over these last years to understand the formulas better and what the school districts I serve need and deserve. Last year, I chaired the Ways and Means hearing, and I'm grateful to the Chair of Ways and Means for this opportunity, on education and local aid. We were greeted by protesters and advocates, about 25 folks from rural towns, sounding the alarm on the crisis facing rural schools. This year, I had the same privilege of again chairing the Ways and Means hearing on education and local aid. And this year, we were greeted by well over 1,000 protesters, many protesting the brutality of minimum aid and declining enrollment, the brokenness of Chapter 70, the inequities baked into the 17-year-old municipal contribution formula. 17 years old. We were in the largest room on the UMass Amherst campus, and yet hundreds of people more could not get into the hearing room. The problems with our formulas, as the gentleman from Winchester said, and the realities in schools are getting worse in the Commonwealth, not better. This amendment is important. I commend our education chair, the Senate president, her very able and very resilient and patient team, because there have been many conversations, our chair of Ways and Means and his team for struggling over the best path forward. This amendment plants a very strong flag in the proverbial ground of education reform. It signals unequivocally that the Senate wants to have a public conversation on K-12 funding, beginning with the formula that drives what communities contribute. Remember, Amherst over 17 years received less than 1% growth in their foundation formula. At the same time, it gave 68% more. Again, this is an unworkable math problem. It charges DESE to be an active, solutions-oriented partner, and it gives our constituents a mechanism to raise their voices, tell their stories, and engage deeply. May we all hear them. And I'm here for all of it. I trust that the Senate will continue pressing forward. I hope the governor hears our calls for help, and I hope the House agrees to examine these inequities. And I will work with my colleagues in the Senate for the Foundation Budget and Municipal Contribution Reform Commission, a holistic renewal of key education formulas that this Commonwealth so desperately needs. And with this, Madam President, I hope this amendment is adopted.